So my name's Anwen, and I am Therapy Coordinator at Spectrum Days. I am currently finishing my final year at university studying occupational therapy, and my dissertation is due in 2 days, so I'm very close to the finishing line now, which is great. It goes so fast though, honestly. Like, it seemed like yesterday I'd started uni and now I'm finishing it, so a little bit scary, but it's very exciting as well. So I have got almost 6 years experience in learning disabilities. I've worked at Spectrum Days 5.5 years, and I've volunteered at several day centres as well, and schools with learning disabilities. So I've got a sort of broad range of experience with learning disabilities. I'm going to see if this works now. Tap. Hey, look at that. There we go. Oh, there I am. Okay. So my key areas of interest are communication, and therapy-related equipment, so stuff like assisted technology and other occupational therapy-related equipment that can support people with learning disabilities. So feel free to ask me any questions about that as we go throughout, or at the end if you want to. I will attempt to stay on track with the timings, and I'll leave some time at the end for questions if anyone has any. So anyone here interested in working with learning disabilities or has experience with learning disabilities? Fab. So you guys wanting to specialise with learning disabilities, or you've got, yeah? No? You've got experience? Fab. Amazing. So obviously I know you've been studying learning disabilities and stuff, so you've probably got a broad idea of what learning disabilities are. So I try not to cover stuff you've already done, but yeah, feel free to ask questions as I go along through. So I'm going to be banging on about my workplace because it'll all make sense. It'll be very relevant, I hope. So I work for Spectrum Days. They're a day centre and domiciliary care service for young people and adults with profound and multiple learning disabilities. And they're based in Droitwich, but they cover a whole range of settings over Kidderminster, Bromsgrove, Redditch, everywhere really. We go quite far. So we provide stimulating and fun activities in-house and externally for our clients. We call our clients members. We don't like the word service users, so they're all called members. And this is a list of some of the stuff that we do. So we do hydrotherapy, rebound therapy, which is trampoline therapy, swimming, horse riding, arts and crafts, music therapy sessions. My slide is gone. Come back. There we go. Sensory sessions, baking, independent living skills, accessing the community and volunteering opportunities, sports, exercise, physiotherapy, pet therapy, the list goes on, basically. There's a lot that we would support them with in the community, and it's very, very different from like an acute setting for people with learning disabilities. So we're more supporting them in their day-to-day lives. We have several large activity rooms, a multi-sensory room, and a sensory garden with adapted swings and wheelchair swings. So it's great fun. Yes, that is my workplace. I have got a video, but I might just leave the link on there and you can have a look at it later because it's a 5-minute video. Oh gosh, it's gone. The presentation is gone. Anyway, oh, I've zoomed in now. I don't like this technology. So here's some photos of some of the fun activities that I mentioned. I really love the swing therapy. I hoist them into the swings, and it looks dangerous, but it's very safe. I do a lot of risk assessments at work as well. It's great fun. Yeah, we'll see if there's time for the video later. If not, you've got the copy of the presentation. So profound and multiple learning disabilities is what I specialise in. So has anyone studied profound and multiple learning disabilities? Has it been covered in this module? Or does anyone know what it is? It's a very long name for something that's quite simple, to be honest. So I presume you all know what a learning disability is. So the NHS would define it as a neurological difference that affects the way a person processes information and communicates. I like that definition better than some of the definitions you come across. There's some, very different definitions which kind of focuses on what they're not able to do rather than what they are able to do. This kind of focuses on their differences rather than, saying it's a disability, if that makes sense. So it's just they have a different way of processing information, and they can still communicate, but they might communicate in a different way to you and I. So PMLD is profound and multiple learning disabilities. So that is a severe learning disability plus other disabilities. And that doesn't have to be a learning disability. It could be something like epilepsy, diabetes, something complex that might require quite a bit of medical care. It could be a communication disability, visual impairments, hearing impairments. So it's a whole spectrum of differences, really. And people with PMLD often require quite a lot of day-to-day support from health and social care services and quite a bit of sort of support in the community as well. I always like to say you've got to see the positives in PMLD. You always look at the person before saying PMLD. It's a person with PMLD. See their ability, not the disability. It's honestly the most rewarding area to work in, PMLD. It's so lovely to put a smile on their faces. This is actually a session that I was running. I made it very messy. We had like spray foam and everything, and it was so good to see the laughs and the smiles on their faces, as I just made a mess basically and covered them all in water. But they had an amazing time. And believe it or not, it is therapeutic getting all this multi-sensory stuff. It looks like I'm just making a mess, but there's a lot of therapy into it as well. Right. Okay, so I've got medical model of disability and the social model of disability, both of which we apply in our day centre. I know some people who say that actually, we should just be focusing on the social model of disability, but I think there is a place for the medical model as well. I think there's a lot of negativity around the medical model, and there are certainly disadvantages to it. But it's something that I think you've got to have a balance really between the medical model and the social model. So the medical model of disability, I'm sure you've covered this in your lessons already, but it has a focus on the person, so their condition, how it's treated, medication they might need. There's lots of research into different conditions. A lot of the conditions our clients have, like cerebral palsy, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, there's lots of research going on into what sort of medication they can have, the different support and treatment they can have. And that's all part of the medical model. It's focusing on the disability itself and what they can do to support this better. So examples of medical model support could be medication, it could be specific physio exercises. Hospitals, GP practices will sort of typically have this sort of medical model of disability, and health and social care policy, looking at funding and stuff like that. They'll focus a lot on the medical side of things, or what are their needs, what do they struggle with, what can we put in place. So it's definitely a good model to have. It has an individualised approach, so they're focusing on their specific condition, and it focuses on understanding their condition better. The trouble with the medical model of disability is it doesn't take into account a holistic approach. So if we simply had the medical model of disability as our theoretical basis at work, we wouldn't really sort of see all the support that our clients would need. It would just be a very sort of medical-based focus on, here's your medication, this is the exercises you're doing, right, we're treating your condition. But actually, there's a whole lot more to it, but there's it's more on the sort of social side of things, communication side of things, which they actually might need more support with, which I shall come on to. So we have sorry, I'm literally just splattered photos of my workplace on all these slides, so there's me. So the social model of disability, which I think is a lot bigger in community services, and it should be anyway, it has more of a focus on the environment. So obviously it's focusing on the individual, but more about how can we adapt the environment to suit the individual's needs. So we're looking at accessibility, inclusion, and a holistic approach. So looking at all their needs as a whole person. So not just physical, we're looking at, I presume you do pies here, physical, intellectual, emotional, social, or has it changed now? Yep. Still do pies? Right, yeah. So we'd be looking at, I don't like the word intellectual, I use cognitive instead, so then it ruins the whole pies thing. But so looking at it from a physical point of view, cognitively, emotionally and socially, looking at their whole needs and what it is that is actually preventing them from accessing these opportunities. So this is where occupational therapy comes into play massively. It's looking at adapting that environment or adapting that support. And it doesn't have to be a physical adaptation either. It could be adapting technology. It could be adapting the way you speak. It could be adapting the way a room is set out. You know, it doesn't have to be physically wheelchair ramps. It could be something that's actually something you can't really see. For example, I use a lot of sign language at work. So that's an adapted way of communicating with them. So a lot of our guys can't speak verbally, but obviously they do communicate. And instead of focusing on them going, right, they've got a disability in communication, we look at ourselves and go, well, what can we do to include them? So we use a lot of sign language and other adapted communication as well. Communication is a big topic for me, so I could rant on for ages about communication. But examples of the social model of disability and the support that can be given, there's wheelchair ramps into buildings, sign language, there's hoisting. I don't know if you've heard of changing places toilets. Yep, so it's a big pet peeve of mine where we go places and I take our clients out and I ring the place up beforehand and I go, do you have changing places toilets? And they go, oh yeah, we've got disabled toilets. And I'm like, but is it a changing places toilet? Does it have hoisting? Does it have tracking? Does it have a big changing bed? And they're like, oh no, we've got a toilet with a rail next to it. And I'm like, oh, that's not my version of disabled toilet. So it's almost changing that sort of social view of disability as well, where people kind of think, yeah, we've got a disabled toilet, we've got a handrail and we've got a ramp, so we're fine. Actually, there's a lot more to it, and it's about sort of raising awareness of that as well, what needs there are out there. It's certainly something that needs a bigger push, I think, in the community at the moment. Like I said, adaptive communication, technology. I use a lot of eye gaze at work, so it's a piece of equipment where the clients use their eyes to track, so it's like a computer, it's got like words or pictures, and they'll look at the words and pictures that they want to say, and the computer will speak for them, which is an amazing piece of kit. And with that piece of equipment, they are no longer disabled, and that's what I'm trying to get at really, is, no, I don't want to shut down, come back, is if they've got that support, if they've got that wheelchair ramp, they can get into the building. If they've got that piece of equipment, the technology that they are now able to communicate, they no longer have that disability to communicate. They no longer have a disability to access a building. So actually, with the right support from occupational therapy, community support, stuff like that, you can actually kind of get rid of that disability, which I think is amazing, really. So it's looking at the environment, really, and exploring what can be changed to include that individual. So we are on a trampoline, you can't really see there, but we're on a trampoline there. This young man uses a wheelchair, so he can't walk. We've got hoisting up there, so we hoist them onto the trampoline. The trampoline's like this high off the ground. We do have health and safety mats and everything so that they don't fall off the trampoline. But we hoist them on the trampoline, and then they're enjoying bouncing on the trampoline just like you and I would. Here, they're ice skating. Again, we chuck the wheelchairs on the ice rink and go around ice skating. It's about including people, really. Right. Learning disability services. So these are all the learning disability services in the community that I've worked with in my workplace. And I think it's very important to stress the importance of the multidisciplinary team. It shouldn't be just one service. We have to communicate across a wide range of services to be able to provide the support that our clients need. So that includes speech and language therapists. I've been told not to call them SALT. They hate being called SALT. It's SLT, so I must change that. Yeah. So speech and language therapists. We've got occupational therapy, obviously, physiotherapy, dietitians, social workers, continence nurses, epilepsy support, doctors, medical professionals, GPs, schools and education, local council and funding agencies, assistive technology. I'm sure there are many more, but I would say these are sort of the main services that I've come across and worked with a lot in my career so far. So especially with profound and multiple learning disabilities, we will literally be communicating with these services on a weekly, daily basis, really. A lot of people with PMLD struggle with swallowing and obviously communication, so speech and language therapists would come, they'd do an assessment, they'd give us the information we need to adapt their diet. Again, adapting a diet is adapting in terms of the social model of disability. You adapt their diet, they're now able to eat, and that sort of removes that disability to eat. You've got occupational therapy, they're looking again at the sort of environment, what we can change, and how to support them to be included in any activity they want to be included in. You've got physiotherapy, so that's a lot of our members are in wheelchairs, or they have contractures, they have difficulty moving certain limbs, and physiotherapy is extremely important for them to be able to engage in day-to-day life. So we'd look at sort of equipment, standing frames, walking frames, so that they're better able to move around. Especially people who use a wheelchair, they need to be getting out their wheelchair a lot, so it's sort of getting them out, doing postural management and stuff like that. Dietitians, again, they'd be collaborating with SLT, sorry, and they'd be looking at sort of the diets that people have. Eating is very, very important with PMLD. It's difficult sometimes if someone's got, not a picky diet, but some people, from a sensory point of view, might not want to eat certain things, and it's about sort of adapting that diet to make sure they still have the nutrients they have while eating the stuff that they enjoy. Social workers, I've had a mixed experience with social workers, but yes, it's very, very important. They sort of look at the funding, how much support that our clients can have, and obviously in terms of safeguarding concerns, those go to the social worker, and the social worker should deal with those. We have continence nurses, this varies from person to person, but I know a lot of our clients are incontinent, and some of them have catheters, some of them need sort of continence pads and stuff, and we'd liaise with the continence nurses to sort of arrange that support. Epilepsy support, again, a lot of our clients have epilepsy, so it's looking at the seizure support. Everyone with epilepsy has like an epilepsy plan, so what happens after 3 minutes of a seizure, what happens after 5 minutes of a seizure, when to call the emergency services. It's all the information that these professionals are going to put together in the massive care plans that we've got for everyone. Again, doctors, medicals and professionals, they'll all contribute to that sort of care plan as well. Most of our clients have left school, but a few of them still attend school, and that's liaising with the schools as well, because often the schools will have quite a robust physiotherapy programme, and they can then pass it on to us so that we're ensuring that continuity of care as well. And then there's the local council and funding agencies. A lot of our clients are funded by the local council. Some people have CHC funding, which is continuing continuing healthcare funding. Got there eventually. And depending on the type of funding, depends how much support they can have, how much equipment that we can provide them with. So it's quite a complex process going through the funding. But there's assessments that can be done, and all of these professionals come together in the multidisciplinary team and provide their perspective and aspect of care to say what this individual needs, and then they can decide on what funding that this individual then needs to receive that support. And then assistive technology, that's the sort of stuff I deal with as well, and a lot of that can be used in tech that supports communication, as well as just general day-to-day living as well. So yeah, all of these professionals together, we'd have multidisciplinary team meetings, we'd make sure that everyone's coming from the same perspective when we're discussing this person's care, and it just provides a holistic overview of how to care for this person and make sure everyone's on the same page. So I always like to stress the importance of MDT working. I kind of really sort of cover this really. So learning disabilities in the community. So we deal with adults and children's social care. They're kind of the top boss really in terms of working out how much funding and stuff to give us and what support. And then obviously there's different types of funding. There's a lot of charities as well that provide funding. So depending on the different disabilities that our clients have. There's like, for example, a few of our clients have Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and there's a charity who provides support for that. So you can apply for funding grants for specific disabilities as well. And there's day centres then. There aren't a lot of day centres for adults with PMLD. Before Spectrum Days and Myriad, these two were sister companies, before they were set up, there weren't really any in Worcestershire area. There might have been one, but it's an area that there's a developing need for. You get a lot of sort of children's support for PMLD, but then once the children leave school, there's not that much support in adult social care. So there's a big push at the moment to ensure that adults with PMLD get better support when they transition from schools. Then there's parent and carer groups in the community as well to support the parents and carers of those individuals with disabilities. And you've got the mental health services, housing, where you might look at adapted housing, stair lifts, different equipment. And then education as well. Obviously there's a lot of specialist colleges. A local one here is, well, not local, but Star College is a very popular college at the moment. It's really good. It's got loads of therapy support. it's very hard to get into. And again, it's all dependent on funding as well, who gets the funding to be able to go to that college. But there's a whole load of support in the community that learning disabilities can have. I can't remember. Oh, I could look at this, couldn't I? Yeah. So then the role of therapy, because I'm mad on therapy in PMLD. I have a combined therapy role, so although I'm almost trained occupational therapist, I also deal with physiotherapy and communication therapy as well. The role of therapy is to enable and promote independence as much as possible, to treat and manage conditions, improve health and well-being, to be an advocate and support people's voices to be heard, to promote individualised care and choices, to develop and learn new skills, and to promote physical, cognitive, emotional and social skills. So a lot of people with PMLD are often non-verbal. They have different ways of communicating. So sometimes they might need an advocate to be able to provide them with that voice so that they can be heard and understood. Sometimes they might need a professional to just provide them with that, whatever it is, a piece of equipment, a piece of assistive tech, so that they can then make their own voices be heard. So I think independence skills are really important in this area. Here we've got one of our members who keeps wanting to shut me down. I don't know how I'm doing for timing, actually. Oh, I'm doing all right. So this is one of our members who loves helping in the kitchen. So we try and get her to be as independent as possible. If we're preparing meals, we get her to go and help peel the potatoes, sort out the meals and stuff. This is a young man who uses a wheelchair. He can't walk, but he can ride a bike, which I think is amazing. And it's those kind of things, really, that improves clients' lives. And it requires a lot of working together with different professionals to be able to provide them with that support.